Hey everyone, so today we're diving into something huge, something that really defines so much of our lives, our career. But we're going to look way past the obvious stuff. We're going to try and figure out what it actually means to build a professional life that you're happy with. Let's pull back the curtain and see what really makes a career work for you. So, let me just ask you something straight up. When you think about getting a job, what's the number one thing that pops into your head? For most of us, let's be honest, it's probably money, right? The salary. But as we're about to see, that is definitely not the whole story.
Because the real secret to a career that you actually enjoy, one that can sustain you for the long haul, well, it goes so much deeper than just the numbers on a paycheck. It's really about how you connect your own personal values, your skills, and the kind of cold, hard realities of the job market. So, here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll look beyond the paycheck. Then, we'll talk about the investment you make in yourself. After that, we'll get into the nuts and bolts of how you get paid. And finally, we're going to get real about taxes.
All right, first up, beyond the paycheck. Look, we all get it. Income is important. I mean, it pays the bills, it puts food on the table. But if we only focus on that, we miss this huge, crucial point. It is just one single piece of a much, much bigger puzzle. And this is where you have to get really honest with yourself. I mean, do you actually enjoy the work? That's job satisfaction. How much freedom, how much independence do you need to feel good? Where do you want to live? What kind of lifestyle are you aiming for? And maybe the biggest one these days, what does a healthy work-life balance actually look like for you? Because a massive salary and a job that makes you miserable, that's not a win.
Let's dig into that independence thing a little more, because it's a big one. You really have two main paths. You can be an entrepreneur, the captain of your own ship. You have all the freedom, which is amazing, but you also take on all the risk. On the other hand, you can be an employee. That gives you a more structured path, more of a safety net, but usually less control. And listen, neither one is better than the other. It's just about which one is a better fit for you.
So once you know what you value, the next question is, how do you get there? And that's where this idea of the investment in you comes into play. This is all about making smart moves today that open up the doors you want to walk through tomorrow. A lot of the time, getting the career you want means you have to put in an investment up front, like more school or some kind of specialized training. And this is always a trade-off, right? In the short term, you've got real costs, not just the tuition money, but your time and the income you're not making while you're studying. But the whole bet is that it pays off big time down the road with a higher potential income and just way more opportunities. So when you think about it like that, the path is pretty clear. It's like a three-step process. First, you make the investment, whether it's your time, your money, or both. That lets you, step two, gain skills that are actually in demand, skills the market is willing to pay for. And that is what unlocks everything else, the better jobs at a much higher ceiling on what you can earn. Okay, so you've figured out what's important to you, you've invested in yourself, and you've got the skills. But how does that actually turn into money in your bank account? For that, we've got to look at part 3, how you get paid, and the outside forces that really determine your value. This all plays out in what economists call the labor market. Now, it sounds super formal, but really, it's just a giant system of supply and demand. If you have a skill that 1 million people have, but not many companies need, well, the pay is going to be low. But if you have a productive skill that's rare and a lot of companies are desperate for it, your value and your income can absolutely skyrocket. And here's the kicker. Your value isn't set in stone. It's always changing, and it's usually because of 2 huge forces. First, the overall economy. When things are booming, jobs are everywhere and wages go up. In recession, it's the opposite. And second, technology. New tech can make some skills totally worthless overnight, while at the same time creating brand new jobs that nobody had even heard of a few years ago. And of course, how you get paid isn't just about your 9-to-5 salary. Your income can also come from your assets, from your investments. We're talking about things like interest from a savings account, dividends from stocks you own, or capital gains when you sell something like a house for more than you paid for it. It's all part of the big picture.
But here's the thing. No matter how you earn your money, there is one universal truth: taxes. And that brings us to our final super important section, because it's not just about what you earn, it's about what you actually get to keep. We all pay taxes to fund public services, and they show up in a bunch of different ways. You've got income tax on your earnings, payroll taxes for stuff like Social Security and Medicare, sales tax every time you buy something, and property tax if you own a home. Just knowing these exist is the first step to being smart with your money.
Now, not all taxes work the same way. The federal income tax, for example, is what we call a progressive tax. What on earth does that mean? It's actually pretty simple. The more money you make, the higher the percentage of that money you'll pay in taxes. It's a fundamental part of how the US tax system is set up. So, let's bring this all home. The big idea here is that building a great career isn't about mastering just one of these areas. It's about understanding how they all fit together: your personal values, the external forces of the market, and the practical reality of taxes. When you can weave all those things together, that's how you make choices that lead to a career that genuinely fits you and helps you build the life you actually want to live.
So I'll just leave you with this one question to think about. After looking at all these different pieces, the personal stuff, the financial stuff, the practical stuff, what's the one part of your own career puzzle that you're going to look at a little differently starting today?